Hello viewers, welcome to our channel Career Prep. In this series of videos, you'll learn everything about analogy, the most common topic in the logical reasoning section of all major government exams, especially banks, insurance, SSC and railways. So please do watch all these videos. This topic is considered to be quite important, and every year a number of questions are asked from this topic. The different types of questions that are asked on this topic in the competitive exams have been divided into different categories to make you understand the topic well. In today's video, we'll learn the meaning of analogy and also the various types of analogy. Before we start, please subscribe to our channel. Also press the bell icon to get notification as soon as we post a new video. So let's start. Before solving questions on analogy, you must understand the concept of analogy. So what is analogy? Analogy means similarity. An analogy is used to compare two things or to find a relation between two things. If the relationship between one pair of words is similar to another pair of words, then we say that both the pair of words are analogous to each other. Questions based on analogy have a pair of numbers, letters, or words that have a certain relationship between them. The pair is followed by a third number, letter, or word, and the fourth number, letter, or word is to be found out. To solve such analogy questions, first identify the relationship between the given pair of numbers, letters, or words. Then find out the fourth number, letter, or word such that the relationship between the third and fourth numbers, letters, or words is similar to the relationship between the first and second numbers, letters, or words. So in analogy questions, normally the first term, the second term, and the third term are given. You have to find the fourth term. To find the fourth term, first identify the relationship between the first and the second terms. Then use this relationship to find the fourth term such that the relationship between the third and the fourth terms is similar to the relationship between the first and the second terms. Let's now learn about the types of analogy. Analogy is of three types: word analogy, letter analogy, and number analogy. Let's understand what is word analogy. Questions based on word analogy have a pair of words that have a certain relationship between them. The pair is followed by a third word. The fourth word is to be found out. To find the fourth word, first you have to identify the relationship between the given pair of words. Then find out the fourth word such that the relationship between the third and fourth words is similar to the relationship between the first and second words. A good way to figure out the relationship in a given question is to make up a sentence that describes the relationship between the first two words. Then try to use the same sentence to find out which of the answer choices completes the same relationship with the third word. For example, newspaper is to press is cloth is to what? Here you are given four answer options and you have to find out which of these answer options is the correct one. To find the fourth word, let's try to make up a sentence that describes the relationship between newspaper and press. Now, newspaper is prepared in the press. Now, use the same sentence to find out the relationship of the fourth word with cloth. So newspaper is prepared in the press. In the same way, cloth is manufactured in the mill. So the correct answer is option C, mill. In word analogy, there are various kinds of word relationships. Let's learn a few of them. In word analogy, you have to first find the relationship between the first two words in the question. Then use the same relationship for the third and the fourth words. There are many kinds of word relationships. Let's learn a few of them. Synonym-based relationship. Here, the first two words have a similar meaning. For example, big and large are synonyms. They have the same meaning. Similarly, huge and gigantic have the same meaning. Antonym-based relationship. Here the first two words are opposite in meaning. For example, poor and rich are antonyms, that is, they are opposite in meaning. Similarly, fat and slim are antonyms, that is, they are opposite in meaning. Tool and object based relationship. Here, there is a relationship between the tool and the object on which it works. For example, scissors cut cloth. Similarly, saw is used to cut wood. Worker and tool based relationship. Here, there is a relationship between a particular tool and the person of that particular profession who uses that tool. For example, a writer writes with a pen. Similarly, a painter paints with a brush. Worker and product based relationship. Here, there is a relationship between a person of a particular profession and his creations. For example, an author writes a novel. Similarly, a singer sings a song. Cause and effect based relationship. Here, the first word acts and the second word is the effect of that action. For example, the effect of infection is disease. Disease. The effect of food is energy. Gender-based relationship. Here, one word is masculine and the other word is the feminine of that word. For example, man is masculine and the feminine gender of man is woman. Similarly, boy is masculine and girl is feminine. Classification based relationship. Here, the relationship is based on biological, physical, chemical, or any other classification. The first word may be classified by the second word or vice versa. For example, cow is an animal. Similarly, girl is a human. Function-based relationship. Here, the second word describes the function of the first word. For example, the spoon is used for feeding. Similarly, a microscope is used to magnify things. Quantity and unit-based relationship. Here, the second word is the unit of the first word or vice versa. For example, the unit of power is watt. Similarly, the unit of temperature is degree. Product and raw material based relationship. Here, the first word is a raw material and the second word is the end product of that raw material, or vice versa. For example, grape is the raw material and the end product of grape is wine. That is, wine is prepared from grapes. Similarly, fruit is the raw material and juice is prepared from fruit. Utility-based relationship. Here, the second word shows the purpose of the first word, or vice versa. For example, pen is used for writing. The purpose of pen is for writing. Similarly, food, the purpose of food is for eating. So pen is for writing and food is for eating. Symbolic relationship. Here the first word is the symbol of the second word, or vice versa. For example, word white is the symbol for peace. Similarly, red color is the symbol for danger. Adult and young one based relationship. Here the second word is the young one of the first word, or vice versa. For example, the young one of a cow is a calf. Similarly, the young one of a human is a child. Subject and specialist based relationship. Here the second word is the specialist of the first word, or vice versa. For example, a heart specialist is called a cardiologist. Similarly, a skin specialist is called a dermatologist. Habit-based relationship. Here, the second word is the habit of the first word, or vice versa. For example, a cat eats food of both plant and animal origin. So, a cat is omnivorous. A tiger eats other animals. So, tiger is carnivorous. So, the food so cat is omnivorous in its food habit. Similarly, a tiger is carnivorous in its food habits. Instrument and measurement based relationship. Here, the first word is the instrument to measure the second word, or vice versa. For example, a thermometer is used to measure temperature. Similarly, a barometer is used to measure pressure. Individual and group based relationship. Here the second word is the group of the first word, or vice versa. For example, a group of cows is called a herd. Similarly, a group of sheep is called a flock. State and capital based relationship. Here the second word is the capital of the first word, or vice versa. For example, the capital of Bihar is Patna. Similarly, the capital of Karnataka is Bengaluru. Country and capital based relationship. Here, the second word is the capital of the first word, or vice versa. For example, the capital of Italy is Rome. Similarly, the capital of India is Delhi. Individual and dwelling based relationship. Here the second word is the dwelling place of the first word, or vice versa. For example, a horse lives in a stable. Similarly, a bee lives in an apiary. Worker and workplace based relationship. Here, the second word is the workplace of the first word and vice versa. For example, a doctor works in a hospital. Similarly, a teacher works in a school. Topic and study-based relationship. Here the first word is the study of the second word or vice versa. For example, mycology is the study of fungi. Similarly, histology is the study of tissues. Trophy and game-based relationship. Here the first word is the trophy of the second word or vice versa. For example, Ranji Trophy is for cricket. Similarly, Thomas Cup is for badminton. Organ and disease-based relationship. Here, the second word is the disease of the first word or vice versa. For example, a liver disease is jaundice. Similarly, a eye disease is a cataract. Now let's learn about letter analogy. Questions based on letter analogy have two sets of letters that have a certain relationship between them. These are followed by a third set. The fourth set is to be found out. To find out the fourth set, first you have to identify the relationship between the given set of letters. Then find out the fourth set such that the relationship between the third and fourth sets is similar to the relationship between the first and second sets. For example, BIGE is to JQOM. Similarly, RYWU is to what? Here you are given four answer options and you have to find out which of these answer options is the correct one. When you look at the first two sets of letters, you will see that each letter of the first set is moved 8 steps forward to obtain the corresponding letter of the second set. So B plus 8 is J, I plus 8 is Q, G plus 8 is O, E plus 8 is M. So use the same relationship to find the fourth set of letters. So R plus 8 is Z, Y plus 8 is G, W plus 8 is E, U plus 8 is C. So R, Y, W, U is to ZGEC. So the correct answer is option C, ZGEC. In letter analogy, there are various kinds of relationship between the letters. Let's learn a few of them. In letter analogy, you have to first find the relationship between the first two sets of the letters in the question. Then use the same relationship for the third and fourth sets. There are many kinds of relationships between the letters. Let's learn a few of them. Vowel consonant relation. For example, ATL is to EVX. Similarly, IPR is to what? So here first find the relationship between the first two sets of letters. When you look at the first two sets of the given first two sets of the letters in the given question, you will see that the first two sets starts with the first two vowels A and E, and the last two letters are consonants. So use the same relationship for the third and fourth sets. So here the third set starts with I. So the fourth set should start with the next vowel after I, which is O. The last two letters are consonants. So here in the fourth set also the last two letters should be consonants. So ATL is to EVX. Similarly, IPR is to ORS. Forward alphabetical sequence. For example, CD is to FG. Similarly, PQ is to what? First, find the relationship between the first two sets of letters in the given question. Here, when you look at the first two sets, you will see that C plus 3 is F, C plus 3 is F, D plus 3 is G. Use the same relationship for the third and fourth sets. So P plus 3 is yes and Q plus 3 is T. So if CD is to FG, then PQ is to ST. Backward alphabetical sequence. For example, AT is to ZS. So MU is to what? First, find the relationship between the first two sets of letters. Here, A minus 1 is Z. T minus 1 is S. Use the same relationship between the third and fourth sets. So M minus 1 is L and U minus 1 is T. So if AT is to ZS, then MU is to LT. Skip letter relation. For example, if ABC is to FGH, then IJK is to what? First, find the relationship between the first two sets of letters. Here, you'll see that after ABC, two letters D and E are skipped and then FGH is written. Use the same relationship between the third and fourth sets. So, skip two letters after IJK. Skip L and M after IJK and then write NOP. So, if ABC is to FGH, then IJK is to NOP. Opposite letter relationship. For example, flag is to UOZT. Then nation is to what? First, find the relationship between the first two sets of letters. Here, when you observe, you'll see that the opposite letter of F is U, the opposite letter of L is O, the opposite letter of A is Z, and the opposite letter of G is T. So here the opposite letters are used. Use the same relationship between the third and fourth sets. So the opposite letter of N is M, opposite letter of A is Z, opposite letter of T is G, opposite letter of I is R, and opposite letter of O is L, and opposite letter of N is M. So if flag is UOZT, then nation is MZGRLM. Now, you have to remember that it's easier to find the opposite letters if you write the alphabets from A to M from left to right in the first row. Write the alphabets from A to M from left to right in the first row. Then in the second row, write the alphabets from N to Z, from right to left. So A to M in the first row from left to right, and N to Z in the second row from right to left. Then now it's easy to find the opposite letters of the alphabets. For example, the opposite letter of A is Z, opposite letter of G is T, opposite letter of L is O, opposite letter of U is F, and so on. Jumble letters relation. For example, LAIN is to NAIL. Then EVOL is to what? First, find the relationship between the first and second terms. Here, when you look at the first and second terms, you'll see that the letters of the first term LAIN gets reversed to produce the second term NAIL. Similarly, EVOL when reversed gives LOVE. So if LAIN is reversed to get NAIL, then EVOL is reversed to get LOVE. Let's look at another example. DOWN is to NOWD. Then WORK is to what? First, find the relationship between the first and the second term. When you look at the first and second terms, you'll see that the first and the last letters of the first term are interchanged to get the second term. That is, D and N are interchanged. D and N of the first term are interchanged to get the second term. So WN becomes NOWD. Similarly, interchange the first and the last letters of WORK to get the fourth term. So, when you interchange W and K of the third term, you will get KORW, the fourth term. So, if DOWN is to NOWD, then WORK is to KORW. Let's look at another example. WORD is to WDOR. Then TYPE is to what? First, find the relationship between the first and second terms. When you look at the first and second terms, you'll see that the 1, 2, 3, 4 order of the letters in the first term changes to 1, 4, 2, 3 to get the second term. So, similarly, the order 1, 4, 2, 3 of the third term TYPE is T, E, Y, P. So, if WORD is WDOR, then TYPE is TEYP. Now let's learn about number analogy. Questions based on number analogy have two sets of numbers that have a certain relationship between them. These are followed by a third set. The fourth set is to be found out. To find out the fourth set, first you have to identify the relationship between the given set of numbers. Then find out the fourth set such that the relationship between the third and fourth sets is similar to the relationship between the first and second sets. For example, if 21 is to 3, then 574 is to what? Here you are given 4 answer options and you have to select which of these answer options is the correct one. So first find the relationship between the first and second set of numbers. Here when you observe the first and second terms, you will see that the relationship is 7x is to x. That is, when you divide 21 by 7, you will get the second term 3. Similarly, divide 574 by 7 to get 82, which is the fourth term. So the correct answer is option B, 82. In number analogy, There are various kinds of relationship between the numbers. So let's learn some common relationships between the numbers in a given pair. One number is a multiple of the other. For example, if 4 is to 24, then 9 is to what? First, observe the first two terms. You'll see that 24 is a multiple of 4. That is, 4 multiplied by 6 is 24. Similarly, 9 multiplied by 6 is 54. So if 4 is to 24, then 9 is to 54. One number is the square or square root of the other. For example, if 8 is to 64, then 13 is to what? When you observe the first two terms, you'll see that the square of 8 is 64. Similarly, the square of 13 is 169. So, if 8 is to 64, then 13 is to 169. One number is the cube or cube root of the other. For example, if 4 is to 64, then 9 is to what? So first observe the first two terms. You'll see that 4 is the cube root of 64. Similarly, 9 is the cube root of 729. So if 4 is to 64, then 9 is to 729. The two numbers can be consecutive, even, odd, or prime numbers. For example, 5 is to 7, if 5 is to 7, then 11 is to what? When you observe the first two terms, you'll see that 5 and 7 are consecutive odd numbers. Similarly, 11 and 13 are consecutive odd numbers. So if 5 is to 7, then 11 is to 13. The two numbers are squares or cubes of two other numbers which themselves are related. For example, the two numbers are squares of two consecutive integers, or squares of two consecutive odd integers, or squares of two consecutive even integers. For example, if 64 is to 100, then 256 is to what? So when you observe the first two terms here, you'll see that 64 and 100 are squares of consecutive even numbers 8 and 10 respectively. That is 8 squared is 64 and 10 squared is 100. Similarly, 256 and 324 are squares of consecutive even numbers 16 and 18 respectively. That is 16 squared is 256 and 18 squared is 324. So if 64 is to 100, then 256 is to 324. The two numbers are such that they are obtained by subtracting a certain number from the squares or cubes of the two related numbers. For example, if 42 is to 56, then 110 is to what? Here, when you observe the first two terms, you'll see that 42 is nothing but 7 squared minus 7. Similarly, 56 is nothing but 8 squared minus 8. And 7 and 8 are consecutive numbers. Similarly, the third term 110 is 11 squared minus 11. The next consecutive number after 11 is 12. So the fourth term will be 12 squared minus 12, which is 132. So if 42 is to 56, then 110 is to 132. The two numbers are such that they are obtained by adding a certain number to the squares or cubes of the two related numbers. For example, if 68 is to 130, then 222 is to what? When you observe the first two terms, you will see that 68 is nothing but 4 cubed plus 4. Similarly, 130 is nothing but 5 cubed plus 5. And 4 and 5 are consecutive numbers. Similarly, the third term 222 is nothing but 6 cubed plus 6. The next consecutive number after 6 is 7. So the fourth term will be 7 cubed plus 7, which is 350. So if 68 is to 130, then 222 is to 350. There can be many more such combinations. So always, to find the fourth term, first find the relationship between the first two terms. Then use the same relationship such that the third and fourth relationship, the relationship between the third and fourth term will be similar to the relationship between the first and second term. In number analogy, since only two sets of numbers are given that have a certain relationship between them, it may be possible to think of more than one relationship existing between the two given sets. So you always have to keep the answer options in view to arrive at the logical relationship. For example, find the missing number. If 25 is to 36, then 49 is to what? Here you are given four answer options and you have to find out which of these answer options is the correct one. Now when you look at the first two terms 25 and 36, you may consider 25 and 36 as squares of two consecutive numbers 5 and 6. 5 squared is 25 and 6 squared is 36. If this logic is applied, then the third term is 7 squared, which is 49. The consecutive number of 7 is 8. So the fourth term will be 8 squared, that is 64. Then the missing number would be 64. That is, if 25 is to 36, then 49 is to 64. But 64 is not in the answer options. So you always have to keep the answer options in view to arrive at the logical relationship. So now again consider the first two terms 25 and 36. You'll see that 25 plus 11 is 36. So when you add 11 to the first term, you'll get the second term. So use the same relationship to get the fourth term. So 49 plus 11 is 60. So when you add 11 to the third term, you will get the fourth term 60. Now 60 is in the answer options. So the correct answer is option D, 60. So in number analogy, you always have to keep the answer options in view to arrive at the logical relationship. Here are a few tips to solve analogy questions. It's very easy to score marks in questions based on analogy as they are direct and not very complicated. Just follow these tips to solve analogy questions faster. The first thing you have to do to solve an analogy question is to find the pattern that is being followed in the given analogy. If you are unable to analyze the pattern followed, then refer to the options given. It will help you in analyzing the pattern. For word analogy questions, a good vocabulary will help you to identify the pattern. So try and improve your vocabulary. If you do not know the meaning of the words in the question, it's obviously impossible to find the pattern. So improve your vocabulary. For alphabet analogy questions, knowing the position values of the letters both in the normal and reverse direction, then opposite letters, and the concept of vowels and consonants, etc., will help you to find the pattern. So be very thorough with the position values of the letters both in the forward and reverse directions, opposite letters, and concept of vowels and consonants. For numerical analogy questions, squares, cubes, multiplication, addition, etc. based patterns may be followed. So use these concepts to check the pattern. Be thorough with squares and cubes of numbers. This will help you to find the pattern easily. Viewers, please go through this video till you have understood the concept. We'll solve a few problems on word analogy in another video. Please do watch that video. If you have liked this video, please like, subscribe and share this video. Thank you.